Hello everyone, and welcome back to another video. Today's video is going to be pretty short, and we're just going to be talking about the topic of diffusion in a very broad point of view. So let's get right into this video. The first couple of things I want to introduce are just some terms that will definitely go and come across later on in this video, and I'll explain more. First of all is the definition of diffusion. So diffusion is the movement of particles, like any net movement, from a higher concentration to a lower concentration. And concentration is basically the amount of particles in one space or one area. So if there's a higher concentration of particles in one area, that means there would be more of those particles as compared to the concentration of particles in the lower concentration area. And we will be talking about that. So remember, in diffusion, particles go from higher concentration to lower concentration. And this higher concentration to lower concentration is called the gradient of concentration. So that's another term that we will come across in the next two examples. So let's look at two examples that deal with the topic of diffusion. So as you can see in this box, I have a lot of purple circles in this half of the box, and I have comparatively fewer purple circles in this half of the box. Now, going back to our terms up here, let's first determine which side has the higher concentration and which side has the lower concentration of purple circles. So think about it for a second, pause this video if you need to. Remember, higher concentration is the side that has more of those types of particles, and lower concentration is the side that has less. So that means that our higher concentration of purple particles will be in this half. So this is going to be our higher concentration, and this box is going to have our lower concentration. Now, which way would the particles diffuse? Remember, particles go from higher to lower, so they're going to be going across this barrier and into this box. So it would look something like all of these little particles are going to be moving into this lower concentration box so that it looks relatively equal. I'm not exactly counting the amount of purple particles in each box, but now it looks more equal than it did before, right? So the aim of diffusion is to have it become equal concentration on each side of whichever box in this scenario. And obviously in real life scenarios like in biology, when we're looking at this in the context of what goes on inside of our bodies, it's not always going to be a box and purple particles, but we will definitely cover that in a later video. So right now, let's just stick with our boxes and our purple particles, and let's move on to example number 2. So in this one, it's not exactly a box, it's a circle, and we have different color particles. We have pink or red particles, whichever one you want to call it. So first, let's determine where our higher concentration is and where our lower concentration is. So as you can see, there are pink particles on the outside of this circle. So we want to keep in mind that in this example, we don't really have a box separating our two areas. In this one, we just have a circle separating one area. Okay, so on the outside, we have pink particles, and on the inside, we also have some pink particles. Now think about it for a second. Determine which area is higher concentration of pink particles and which area is lower concentration. If you said the inside has a higher concentration, you are correct. And if you said outside of the circle has lower concentration, you are also correct. So in this situation, how do you think the particles are going to move so that we can achieve an equilibrium, a balance of pink particles on either side of the circle? We're going to be moving our pink particles outside of the circle so that we can get relatively close to equal amounts of pink particles on the outside. So I'm just going to begin moving these so that you can kind of see how it happens. And I think that that might be relatively equal. Exactly, I'm not sure exactly how many pink particles I drew, but the point is we're trying to get to an equal number. So if you were doing this in real life on a worksheet, I would suggest counting the amount of particles to make sure that they're equal on both sides. But for the purpose of this video, the point is just so that we can get to equal amounts on the outside and on the inside of this circle. And same for these boxes. Now, as I mentioned before, diffusion is very, very important in all living beings. In this worksheet, or in this video, all we talked about was just the theory of diffusion and how diffusion works. But in future videos, we're going to be talking about processes like osmosis and passive and active diffusion, which play extremely important roles in bodily functions, such as the regulation of fluids inside of our cells and nutrients coming in and outside of our cell membranes. So stay tuned for these videos. But for now, I highly suggest you practice some of these diffusion problems, and we'll see you next time. Thank you.